Gareth, you and I have worked with sales teams for many, many years, and come across, lots of challenges. One of the most common challenges that I certainly have come across is the fact that sales professionals tend to present too early. Now, what I mean by that is they're very keen to take the customer through their solution, rightfully so. They feel under pressure of time very often. And so what they tend to do is very early on in the meeting, and oftentimes just straight away after the introduction, get into telling their story. And one of the frustrations that I find with that is that very often the story that they're telling is not the story that the customer wants to hear. Tell me about your experience around that area.
Yeah, unfortunately, all too common, and it's one of the reasons why the sales profession, and it is a profession, sometimes gets a bad reputation because it tends to be a proposal that's all about us as opposed to really figuring out what's going on for the customer and then linking your proposal to it. And you can't do that unless you've engaged in understanding, and taking that time to understand is crucial, because you're therefore much more likely to understand, what, if any, elements of your potential proposal are relevant to your customer. And it means you can hone in on those elements that are most important, and therefore much more likely to be fit for purpose and feel much more tailored to those customers' needs. And it's the investment in that understanding piece that's often missed.
And I'm curious to know from your perspective, what stops people from doing that, and what's behind that question is that the irony of this is that by not doing that, it's going to take them a whole lot longer to come to an agreement, and it's going to be a much less smooth journey to get there. So what do you think stops people from doing this?
Yeah, it's that, first of all, it's that awareness that understanding first before you present is an investment. It's a time investment, and that ultimately is going to save you time later on. But I think there are a number of things here. First of all, I think people aren't used to it, so it's a comfort blanket of get my story out. That's what I'm here to do. Whereas your real job, first of all, as a commercial salesperson, is to find out, well, what's going on in your customer's world, what are their issues, what's their view on certain things, and then and only then figure out whether you've got something that's going to help that customer. And unfortunately, that piece is often missed in the rush to present. It's often one of the first thing that goes under pressure, and unfortunately that leads wasted time, potentially bad relationships because customers don't get value in the meetings, and ultimately it ends up in quite a costly exercise all round, and it's ultimately going to end up probably in the customer not wanting to see you much because they're constantly bombarded with things that aren't really adding value to them.
So it sounds to me like it's a combination of two things. One, it's the skill of doing that, but two, actually, there's the process in there, right? So if you learn that, in effect, you don't get your presentation out until you finish exploring and understanding the customer's needs, if you can get that sequence right and have that habit, that's going to be hugely helpful, right? In trying to make that work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about being intentional to understand. So prepare questions, use them, listen, probe, get curious. We've been speaking about this before, and then and only then, making a decision about whether you've got something of value.
Okay, great advice. Thanks, Gareth.